It's Friday, day after Thanksgiving of deer season now, and I only have today and tomorrow to hunt for the season, and then I'm done since I don't have my muzzleloader with me this year. So I'm near Jackman on the cutoff, and I'm parked right where Dad and I tracked a pretty big buck a few years ago, and we followed him all day and just never caught up to him. He was just on a straight line, walking the whole day. So I'm back to that same spot, um, a little bit west of where we tracked the buck a couple days ago, and got a good look at him and had that close encounter. And it's a nice, warm day. It's supposed to get up to 40, and we might even get rain today. So there's not much wind, and hopefully I can find a track to follow. Okay, I walked about 50 yards from the car, and here's a track crossing the road. I guess luck was with me today. It's hard to tell how old it is. There's the train in the distance. We've had snow on the ground for a full week now, so it's a little hard to age these tracks since this could have been made up to a week ago and still be in the snow, but it looks kind of fresh to me. I'd say it's probably made within the last day. It hasn't gotten that warm recently, so even if it was made a couple days ago, it could still look like this. But it's not too melted out, and it looks like a medium-sized track, so I'm gonna follow it. It's heading up toward a ridge line, kind of in the distance. The sun is rising behind, so I'll just follow it and see if it gets fresher. Hopefully, since it's late in the season now, the deer are getting tired and just kind of wanting to feed and rest. So I'm just gonna hop on this track and follow it, see if I catch up to it. Okay, that other track that I was on got onto a really big deer trail, and it headed across a brook and got into a big mess of tracks, where since the snow is a week old, there were just tracks everywhere, and it was really hard to figure out. So I just left that and came up onto the ridge again to try to look for a deer on its own, and I found a pretty fresh one. And after like 20 minutes of walking, I found its tracks running, so I think I jumped it. So it looks small. I think probably it's just a doe. So I know it's fresh, and I'm just gonna give it a few minutes to quiet down and then just stick on this deer and see if I can get a look at it. I just jumped the doe again, and this time I got a pretty good look at her for maybe a second. but I wasn't able to get a shot at her. And she had just gone into this red pine plantation, and I was kind of going slow and bleeding with my mouth because the tracks were so fresh. And when she had entered this stand, she kind of made a hard turn and started zigzagging. So I was going slow and watching for her, but she just saw me before I saw her, and she jumped away. I'm just giving her some time to quiet down before I go after her. But it's a small doe, probably not even 100 pounds. Her track is really small, but I have a doe tag, so it's exciting just to see a deer in the woods. Okay, I just went about 100 yards on my doe track from her bed, and she was still running when a super fresh buck track walked right on top of her track, and he followed her track for a little ways and then veered off. So I started to follow his track, and within like 30 seconds of veering off from the doe, he jumped up in front of me, and he was running through these woods here. And I only caught a couple seconds of him running, so I took off running after him, ran about 100 yards and stopped. And when I stopped, I realized that he had stopped, and then he started to run again. I put my gun up, and I was on him with my scope, and he was going through the really, really thick stuff, so I could have sent a shot at him, but he was through really thick stuff, and I could just catch little glimpses of brown through the trees. So here's his track. So I just got really lucky that this doe led me right by a buck, and I didn't see his antlers, but I'm just gonna do a little loop and slowly still on my way in the direction he went until I hit his running track, and then try to catch up to this one. But I only have a couple more hours of light, so I can't give him too long to quiet down this time. I just went 200 yards on this buck, and he jumped up 20 yards away from me. He was right in a skid trail full of raspberries, and I wasn't expecting him to be there, and he took 2 bounds and he was gone. So I only have an hour left of daylight, so I'll probably give him like 10 minutes and then just ease along on his track. I don't think he's really going anywhere. He keeps laying down, so I hope I can get him before dark. It's now 7 p.m. and I've been walking out of the woods for 3 hours. I took the wrong road out and ended up making a big roundabout loop to get back to my car. So I don't know how far I went, but I ended up taking a different road, which led me out to Route 6, the highway. And from there I was like a 4-mile walk up the highway to the road that I drove in on, and then a couple miles in on that road to my car. So that took a lot longer than I expected to get out, but that's why I'm prepared to stay the night if I have to. I have matches and I would be fine for a night or two, but made it. I'm all safe, so we're all good. This is the last day of deer season, and I'm back where I walked out yesterday when I ended up on the wrong road system, and I went a lot farther than I actually had to get back to my car. So it's a beautiful day. It's about freezing, like 32, and cloudy, but looks like we're gonna have some sun and a little bit of wind, which is nice. We got a little rain at the end of the day yesterday, and that froze, so it's kind of loud walking. So might be a little harder to get close to the deer. But I'm headed back to the spot where I ended the day yesterday and saw multiple deer, and they were really moving. Yesterday when I headed out, there were fresh tracks all over the place, so I'm gonna go back there and just kind of look around. If I see a fresh track, maybe follow it, do some still hunting maybe, if there's a lot of sign, and make the most of my last day for rifle season 2022. It's just after 9 o'clock now, and I've just been going basically in a straight line. I've passed through a couple of choppings. I went through a big red pine plantation, and then I hit a couple of small unnamed ponds, and there were some really steep ravines and some little cliffs and things. So I've just kind of been going straight, just walking pretty steadily since I left the car, looking for fresh deer tracks or sign or anything. And I've seen probably a few dozen old tracks, but I just found a couple of fresher ones. They're the freshest I've seen yet, so I'm gonna hop on them and see if I can catch them. It's 2 tracks going down through this chopping, and it looks like a buck following a doe, if I had to guess. Neither of the tracks are very big, but one's smaller and one's medium-sized. There's the bigger track, going right through this little chopping. I think probably these deer passed through here early last night because their tracks are a little bit frozen in the bottom, but they don't have the snow and the rain and stuff that we got yesterday, so I think I'm like 12 hours behind them, and hopefully they don't go too far. Okay, I don't even think I've gone about a mile on these deer tracks, and I just stopped to take a close look at them and try to age them, and it looked like they were still a little frozen, so I kept pushing on the track, and just a minute after I stopped to look at them, I came to their beds with running tracks leaving them, so I jumped them, and it's not even 9:30 yet, so I think these deer are probably kind of tired and just focused on feeding and putting on weight before the winter, so I'm just going to give them some time to quiet down and then keep going on them. Since I have the whole day, I don't want to push on too hard and really spook them. So I'll just give them a few minutes and then keep on going and maybe do some grunts and calls and stuff as I go. Since it's kind of crunchy walking, they'll probably hear me. Here's the buck track. The doe ran right over there. They're going down this hardwood hill, I think toward a bog down in the bottom. Okay, I just did a little looking around and I couldn't find the buck's bed anywhere. I saw their tracks heading into a little thicket, and then I found the doe's bed in there with her running track, and all I saw was the buck's running track going out. I couldn't find his bed, so I'm pretty sure the buck might have been following the doe's track, and then when he caught up to her, he'd spooked her, and he was maybe just chasing her. So I don't think I spooked these deer. Their tracks are still pretty fresh looking, so I'm going to continue on and see what happens. So these running tracks took me down onto this skid trail where it looks like 2 or 3 other bucks have crossed during the night. They all look about the same age, and they're all pretty good sized tracks. So I've got to decide whether to stay on the 2 deer that are still running. So I still think it's a buck chasing a doe, or follow one of these other buck tracks. There's one kind of going to the south that way, and there's a couple that are going north this way, which is back toward my car, and the running deer are going north. So just got to decide what to do here. Those 2 deer that I was on earlier led me into a maze of tracks, and it was so hard to pick through them because there were so many that I ended up just finding a bigger lone buck track that was heading south out of the area that they led me into. So I followed him instead, and his track was a little bit older, but I just tried to catch up to him, and I went probably 2 miles on his track, and then he crossed Parlin Stream, and it was like 30 feet wide and had a pretty good current, so I didn't want to try to cross that, potentially fall into it. So I just came back up this way and came back into the area where those 2 running deer led me into this morning, and I found a little cliff overlooking the chopping that all those tracks were in. So I found a little perch here, and I'm just gonna sit for the last couple hours. I figured since I've been hunting for the past week straight and tracking every day, it's been a lot of fun, but maybe just sitting and watching for a little while will be what it takes to get one. So for the last couple hours, I'm here on this little cliff. It's just a little sprucey knoll behind me, and it's a pretty good drop down off the edge. But I have a great view of this whole chopping and this hillside where the deer tracks were, so I'm gonna sit here until about dusk and just watch over the landscape. That's about it for my deer season for this year. I don't have my muzzleloader with me, so I won't be able to hunt muzzleloader, so I have to be done after rifle, and this is the last Saturday of it. But I just wanted to thank my dad for letting me stay at our camp for Thanksgiving week and track deer every day. I'm pretty lucky to be able to spend so much time out here in a place like this. So beautiful. Going out every day and getting on deer tracks and just having tons of fun in the woods. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else, so thanks for watching, and I'll definitely be hunting hard again next year. I got close this year, probably the closest I've ever gotten to tracking down one and shooting it. A couple times I was able to track deer and catch up to them and see them. I just never actually took a shot, so head out to the car now and go back to camp and warm up.